Welcome to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We're here for Chemist Warehouse, heading to Chemist Warehouse for great savings, but we are also here with the big fella. Honestly, my shoulders started tingling because the big fella on the line. It's a great day for Fifita. How you going, brother?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Mate, I'm absolutely fantastic. Mate, you've had a cracking year. How are you feeling at the Titans? Obviously a great win on the weekend. How's the buzz around the place?
Yeah, no, it's been good couple of weeks, 3 wins and 2 losses, and no other big contest this week, going up against the boys there in Brisbane. And, for myself, I'm really enjoying it, the boys and myself and the staff are doing a really good job. It's our day off today, so, just chilling with the family and, training tomorrow.
Dave, you mentioned the derby this weekend against the Broncos, of course, your old side. Do you still have communications with some of your old teammates up there leading into the big game?
I'm pretty close with the majority of the boys up there. Really close, and got good mates. But this week, we will both want to get the result that we're after. So myself, I'm really keen to be a part of this game this weekend. It's hard not to get up for this game, I know it's a big game for myself and the boys there, and it's always a good contest coming up against the boys. But looking forward to it, eh?
Yeah, could you not look forward to it as much, bro, and just chill out? Let us get the win, bro. Yeah. Seriously.
You're the favourites, mate.
Mate, we're just battlers, mate. We're just battlers up a small little town. Just battlers up the top there. Mate, look, I've loved the way you've kind of, I think you've changed up your game to a degree. It really feels like this year, instead of, I guess, in previous years, you've had a lot of tackle breaks and almost being reliant on to create the line breaks. Whereas I feel like this year you've really straightened up your running and more played a role of instead of, I could probably shrug off a tackle or two here, just get to me front, quick play the ball, get back to me position, and, set up for the next play. Is that something that has happened this year with Foz, or am I reading into things?
So for myself, during the preseason, it was a really tough preseason that we had under new coaching staff. But, for myself, I don't know, I just go out there and play the way I play, I know everyone's used to seeing the tries and all that type of stuff, but for myself, I just need to do my job as a second rower. I do miss the tries, Hopefully, one's coming this weekend. I'm due, but my style and game plan's always the same. I've just been getting just my runs and doing my best in defence. Just learning a lot off Foz and the other older boys in the squad. Joe Stimson there on the right edge is doing a terrific job. And for myself, just playing what the boys want me to play, mate. Going out there and having fun.
Hey, Dave, talk to us about the start of this year, mate. You've had a couple of really good victories. Round one against the Warriors, and then you back that up with a game at home against the Melbourne Storm, where you come out and just played an absolutely great game of football and knocked off the Storm, who are sort of the heavyweights of the competition. Played 5 games, 3 wins, sitting in the top 8 at the moment. What's been the difference from last season, do you believe?
I think everyone's just brought in it's hard work. We've got hard workers at our club now, and the coaching staff were really great with us boys. They trained us really hard, and we got the older boys there. Primo Tino's doing a good job, and Foz, Sam Verrills, and all the new recruits. Joe Stimson, Chris Randall, and Aaron Schropp. They've done a terrific job. They all bought it in, and including myself. We want to win games, and for us to win games, we all need to buy in, and we know where we want to be at the end of the year, and it's still early in the season, so we just want to rack up as many wins as we possibly can early in the season. But it just comes down to everyone buying in and just working hard for one another and working hard for each other, and hopefully we do it again this Saturday night.
Now, mate, if there was a Dally M for the most arrogant bloke in rugby league, Brimo might get it. Brimo might get it. I'm hearing whispers that he's been calling himself the Prince of Palmy. Is that correct?
What?
He's got a few houses are down there now. He's bought it a couple of places down there. He's a good fellow, Brimo. Close mate of mine, and he's due back soon in a couple of weeks' time. And yeah, he's the prince, man. He gets away with a lot of things down these ways. So yeah.
Mate, we've touched briefly on the Broncos, your old side. You're taking on the league leaders this weekend. How do you go about, firstly, preparing and playing a good game, but getting a victory against the Broncos?
Yeah, so for myself, it was a short turnaround, and this whole week's just been about recovery. Yesterday and today, and our final session tomorrow, and then captain's run on Friday. But for myself, I enjoy these games, especially this one here, Brisbane. I know all of them boys there, and they got weapons all across the park, and we'll identify that tomorrow in our big training session and do our homework on the boys there, and hopefully, get the result. But I'm just throughout the week, I don't really think of it as much. I like to so on my days off, I like to just relax and that. But come tomorrow, do our homework and all that type of stuff, and be ready for a big game.
Now, speaking of big game players, the big fella Payne Haas, he has been on an absolute tear this year. Absolute tear. What, Oh, he's an absolute. I mean, I'd chop him down every time, honestly. If I'm being honest, I'd chop him down every time.
Come on, mate.
Just tackle with the legs, mate. Just tackle with the legs. Mate, well, I guess going into a game, there's the obvious things of, get, numerous numbers in tackles. But is there anything that you guys have identified where you can nullify his go forward? Because he's just so important to the Broncos side. And if you get rid of that, it's their main weapon pretty much.
Yeah, Payne's he's had a great year so far, and he's going to continue. He's a great player, a good friend of mine, and it's a hard one. You just got to say his name, and it speaks for himself. But we already know their strike weapons, man. They got it across the whole park. Walshy there, Katoni on the edges, and Payne in the middle, and for myself, I've got a big job there. And the boys in the middle got a big job on him, but we got big boys that can match it. Big Tino, Big Moaki, and Isaac Liu there in the middle. They're doing a wonderful job in the middle there, and it's going to be a good contest. Looking forward to it, but I can't speak enough of Payne. He's a good mate of mine, and one of the boys.
Hey, Dave, Kempy spoke about a couple of new players into the squad this year, but what about a couple of new coaches, Brett White, and I think Justin, he got Dallas Johnson down to do a bit of work with you as well. What have you made of those two coaches?
Johnson. They're really good. They're real involved in that defensive training style there. So Dallas comes in every second or every 2 days a week, and Whitey is always into us with wrestling and our defensive systems. Dallas is a good bloke. He loves the late dip and all that type of stuff. It's good. That's something we've lacked in the previous years, and we're still not there yet. Everyone in the competition, they want to be better defensively, and Whitey and Dallas have been doing a terrific job with us boys, week in, week out, reminding us and just repetition with all the fundamentals and all that type of stuff, including myself in defensive work. But they've been terrific, and also our head of performance staff, Cameron Ferguson, he's been terrific for us too. So it's been a good buy.
Mate, you didn't get a chance to play for Queensland last year, partly due to your MCL injury. Is that a really big goal for you to get back into that side?
100%, yes. Yes, that's my goal. That's where I want to be. I know what I need to do to get there, and the edge back rollers these days are stacked. So for myself, I just got to play week by week and do my best for the team, and that's one of my goals. Kempy, I want to be there. So just got to keep working.
Now, mate, before we let you go, I've just got one request, and this means a lot to me, mate. So if you could do it for me, just leave Reece Walsh's pretty little face alone. Just leave it alone. Come on.
Reece boy. Nah, he's one of the boys, keeper brother. Yeah, he's a good fellow, Reece. He's killing it this year too, so yeah, they're all killing it up there. So yeah, can't wait to match it with them boys. They're all killing it.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Let's have a quick injury wrap from round 6, thanks to Victor School and Sports Club Supplies. Visit victorsports.com.au. Holy Smithy.
It's a big list, mate. It's a big list. And I'll tell you what, some significant injuries in here. Probably some of the worst we've seen from any round of the entire season, Kempy. Jaden Brayley and Adam Dewey ACL tears for both. That's Adam Dewey's third. And Jaden Brayley, I'm sure he sat a season out already with an ACL tear maybe 2 years ago. I think it was. Yep. He sat out a whole year. So really feeling for those two players. They put so much hard work into getting ready for a year, and then a serious knee injury like an ACL tear just takes that all away from them. So speedy recovery to those two players. Wade Egan, this is all concussions, Kempy. Wade Egan, Nick Meaney, Fletcher Baker, Tom Flegler, Jared Wallace, and Ruben Garrick are all suffering from concussion. I think they'll all miss. Yeah, they're missing this week. Tamari Martin, obviously, he fractured his leg and did well. He played on for like several minutes afterwards, the incident, but then succumbed to the injury. You'd see him just sit down on the field and hobbled off. So he's out for 8 weeks. Brent Naden, AC joint issue. He's out for a couple, 2 to 3. Griffin Neem, throat injury. He got a bit of a whack in the throat, and we heard reports after the game that he was taken to hospital, with some issues with his breathing and swallowing and whatnot, just for precaution. But now he's going to be out for 8 weeks with a throat injury. So that's a huge blow for the Cowboys. Huge blow.
Wow.
They've got a lot of issues with injuries. Josh Adokar, that was a high profile injury of the weekend. Syndesmosis, of course, went over awkwardly on the ankle when he was chasing that kick. He's been in for surgery already. Got the tightrope performed on the ankle joint. So he's anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So that's a big spell for speedy winger who was hoping to get back into Origin, Kempy. That's a bit of a blow for the Blues.
Yep.
Michaeli Ravalawa, hamstring strain from the weekend against the Titans. And
playing well too.
Toby Sexton. Okay,
No.
Toby Sexton just got back in the first grade side, was the hero for the Titans, scored the last try to level up before Tanner Boyd kicked the conversion to put them ahead. Fractured wrist, 4 to 6 weeks. I can't remember a round of football where so many players come up or finish the games with such significant injuries. Like we're talking months, multiple months. A lot of these players, and there's a couple at the top, obviously, with the ACL, that season gone.
Mate, it's I actually wanted to speak about this today, and so thanks to Victor School Sports and Club Supplies. Visit victorsports.com.au. But I wanted to talk about it because this is via the Telegraph, so the Daily Telegraph. This is a quote from Brian Seeney, and he's basically a leading physiotherapist an injury analyst, and he basically has come out and said, guys are bigger and stronger than ever before, and the game is faster than ever. Making guys faster and fitter will more often than not have side effect of more traumatic explosive injuries. Now, according to the Daily Telegraph, 52 long-term injuries have happened after just 6 rounds. 52 long-term injuries after 6 rounds.
Yeah.
That is...
So if that trend continues, by round 12, we'll have 100 out. Oh, you'd like to think this is just an abnormal number of injuries, to players in our competition. But imagine if that was to double over the next 6 weeks and you had 100 players out. 100, Kempy.
Oh, mate.
What it does to the competition.
Oh, 100%. This is only anecdotally, just from my own experience, and people who listen to the podcast would have heard it before. Smithy, you were always really good from the outside looking in and keeping kind of like the same weight throughout your career, it seemed anyway.
Yep.
For me personally, like being a smaller winger, so when I came into the grade, I was about 82 kilos. in preseason about 84, 85, and then obviously the contact would, you'd drop down to about 82, 83.
Yeah.
And so that was under Wayne. Then new coaches come in that like big, strong wingers.
Mm-hmm.
So in the preseason, what they do is they say, we need you to put on, at the Broncos anyway, it was, we need you to put on 5 to 6 kilos. So we need you at 90 kilos.
Yep.
And if basically what they would do is each week they would weigh you, and if you didn't hit your target, you'd be fined $250.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. And so, but basically what happened was, though, for me personally, is like as soon as I got up past 87 kilos, soft tissue injuries just started happening constantly, just like
hamstrings,
everything. And I have my whole career before that, my body was so in sync, it was so balanced. I never, ever got soft tissue injuries. And so I know it's anecdotal, but I just do think that our frames are only built to have a certain amount of mass on them.
Yeah.
And I think with all the science and all the training and everything like that, I do think that players are too big for what their body can handle. And that's why we're seeing so many injuries.
Yeah. And I get that question a lot, Kempy, about, my career and the longevity that I had, that I enjoyed, and the very few games that I experienced on the sideline through injury. And maybe that was a part of it, that I was never, ever the biggest guy or the most explosive guy on the paddock or in the gym. Like I never had the ability to lift huge weight in the gym. I wasn't overly fast on the field as well. Wouldn't say not overly fast. I wasn't fast at all. I had very little speed. Okay, just for the record. But maybe you are right, mate. Maybe you are right. Like you see now, guys at a very young age going into these like training programs, and it's starting at. I'm seeing it at school now, at schools.
Yeah.
With all these schools, developing not just rugby league, but sports programs all around the country, and they're putting them into these like weight training programs at like ages of 13 and 14.
Crazy.
So by the time, like if you walk around a junior rugby league club now, if you walk past an under 14s or under 15 side, they look like NRL players.
It's crazy.
At 14 and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying, my pathway or my experiences with lifting weights is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I did not touch any type of weights or walk into a gym until I was 18 years of age.
Me too.
I was signed with the Melbourne Storm, and then part of the preseason training for my first year with the feeder club, Brisbane North, like North Devils, we started lifting weights. And I was like, I could hardly bench 80 kilos. I could hardly bench it. I could probably lift it once, but I slowly built into it. But I was at an age, I was at a mature age. Like I was 18.
Yeah.
So, like, are we taking it a little bit too seriously by putting these young children, like they're children, like 13 and 14. Like I've got kids that age. I couldn't imagine seeing them walk into a gym.
Yeah.
To lift huge weights.
Mate, I agree. And I think there's a lot of science in that coming out. I mean, look, this is just a punter's view, guys. Not, I don't have that much information on it, but a lot of reading that I've done on the internet and, people that are in the know, where a lot of body weight stuff is becoming quite good for your body.
Yes.
In regards to, now, obviously you need heavy weights for explosiveness in contact, all that kind of stuff. But I do think that we may be overloading the heavy stuff and not doing enough core strength. I know they're bringing it in with the yoga and everything that, back in our days, there wasn't much yoga going on at clubs, that's for sure. Oh, my God. If you said yoga, you'd
Pilates.
get booed out of the room. But I do think there is something to be said, like maybe we do need to work more on strength and flexibility rather than mass and explosiveness.
Yeah, it has to have something to do with it. And as you mentioned, like we're not medical people. We're not in that industry. We're just viewing it as people that have played the game and experienced it at different sort of parts and different stages. But you look at the athletes playing the game today, they've never been bigger, stronger, or faster than they have now, right now.
Mate.
And then, but you talk about, like the body shape and the explosiveness of athletes now, but then you add in the way that the game has been shaped by the NRL and people in charge of making the rules. They've changed and manipulated our game to make it as fast as it's ever been as well.
Yeah.
So the game is played at a greater speed. It's played with more fatigue. And like we mentioned, we may have mentioned this maybe in the first or second captain's run show this year, Kempy, like with the new rule this year where defending players have to have both feet behind the referee this year. What they're doing is they're essentially separating the teams an extra metre than what they usually were. So previous to this year, you could have your back foot in line with the referee and be leaning forward, whereas now it's both feet. So you're taking a defensive line a metre away. That's an extra metre for these ball carriers to gain momentum. So what that equals out to is higher collisions. Is greater collisions when the two bodies come into contact with each other because there's more space between the two teams. So there's a lot of concern about the injuries going on at the moment, and a lot of the talk around them is they're preventable. There's defenders they're not showing enough care for ball carriers and all that sort of stuff. I think a lot of it is to do with the way we've manipulated our rules. And we've sped the game up, and we're asking these athletes to play a game a certain way, which it actually it encourages. Well, encourages isn't the right word, but it increases the risk of a lot of these injuries.
Well, you ask any physio, and they would tell you a lot of injuries happen under fatigue.
Yeah,
that's when the injuries happen. Is when you aren't thinking right, when your body isn't braced the way it's supposed to be braced. Anyway, we've got to head to a break. After the break, we've still got 1,000 things to talk about. We've got all these texts to get to. We've got a round preview. Who's the current Premiership favourite? What's going on at the Sea Eagles? Plenty of stuff to talk about, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings every day. We got some texts here, Smithy. Hey, boys, as a result of injuries, should the NRL step in and not allow players with niggling injuries to take the field? And another one as well is, hey, boys, do you think that reducing the interchange numbers, therefore making cardio stamina a more important factor in the game, would decrease the focus on building massive players? Kev from Camden. What do you reckon, Smithy?
Oh, look, that could possibly work, but I don't think that will happen. I think the RLPA will have a fair bit to say about that, just around player welfare, reducing numbers on the bench. That sort of creates a bit more fatigue. But I do understand the logic in that, is that they won't be able to carry as much bulk if they're asked to play more minutes, longer minutes. And that's going back to the days when we were young fellas, Kempy, or maybe when I was a young fella. I'm a little bit older than you, but when
and I was playing soccer.
Players, you were playing soccer. When guys had to go out onto the field and they knew that as soon as they were interchanged, that was it. So you used to see regularly, particularly the forwards, they'd play 65, 70 minutes straight until they were interchanged, or sometimes they'd just play the whole game out because the coach needed them out there because they were the best. The starting 13 was your best players, and they'd run you out there until really you couldn't go any longer, and then they'd sub you off. They'd interchange you. So maybe that might be the go. The other one about the niggling injuries, well, if we did that, if the NRL cracked down on that and we reported on every niggling injury, we wouldn't have a competition.
We wouldn't.
That's just, can be. Sorry, mate, go.
No, mate, I was just going to quickly say, you'd know better than anyone. I'm telling you right now, there is not a single player that doesn't have a niggling injury. Right now,
yeah, you're right. Yep, after 6 rounds, every player in the competition will have something that they're carrying into this weekend's footy. Like a cork, busted ribs, something going on with, swollen ankle, swollen knee, whatever it is, bit of irritation in the shoulder joint, whatever. Every player right now, and they'll carry that all through the season. And it's what, separates our sport from many others. But, yeah, I think if we were to do that, we wouldn't have any players left, really.
Mate, one of the biggest lessons I learned as a rookie was you can't always be 100%. A lot of rookies struggle with it. I struggle with it. I was like, I want to feel the best I can feel, tip-top, but it's just not going to happen. Now we've got some breaking news, and this is devastating news for the Bulldogs. Viliami Kikau will undergo surgery and could be out for 8 to 10 weeks after tearing his pec at Bulldogs training.
No way. This just come through.
Just come through.
Wow.
This is via NRL on 9.
Oh, wow. So huge signing, of course, for the Bulldogs, high-profile signing, Kikau from the Panthers. They've just lost the Fox, and now Kikau, pec injury. Oh, that's devastating for Bulldogs fans. Devastating.
Another long-term injury. It's like
how long are they saying?
8 to 10 weeks.
Wow. Just when you've seen like the fortunes of the Bulldogs turn, like they seemed as though they were making some huge improvements under Cameron Ciraldo, coupled with some pretty decent signings to the football club. They were playing some pretty good football as well. That's a huge blow.
It's
huge blow.
It just shows you that half the battle is keeping your best 17 on the field. Maybe even 75% of the battle, because who's been the most dominant team across the board for the last 3 years? Panthers. And I'd love to look at their injury count, because I reckon it's probably the lowest out of the lot.
Yeah, well, at least, over the last 3 seasons, absolutely. Yeah. They've been able to carry pretty much, nearly the same 17 for a lot of those games across those 3 years.
Well, Taylor May was their first ACL in 5 years, I think.
At the entire club.
Yes,
Wow.
at the club. That's again, if I recall correctly, that's devastating news for the Bulldogs. I look, obviously he is a marquee signing, and you want him in the side. I will say, to the Bulldogs' credit, not only in reserve grade. So obviously they had all their reserve grade players playing first grade especially their forward pack, playing first grade last week. So the players that came up, they actually came up and won the game. I think it may have been against a high-quality New South Wales Cup side as well. So the positive for Bulldogs is guys like Preston have come through playing really good footy.
Yeah.
So this is a really good opportunity this is like painful growth where, okay, you don't want this to happen, but if their plan is to try to go for a premiership in 2 to 3 years, they may get a lot of benefit out of this situation where young guy comes in, does a really good job, and gives an opportunity.
Yeah, and it's the way they need to approach it now is that, what's done is done with Kikau. It's far from ideal that you lose such an impactful player for a long period of time, but they look to the future now and giving a guy like Jacob Preston, who's been outstanding in his opportunities that he's had this year, where you go, well, now that position in the back row is now his. He knows it's going to be his for the next, 2.5 months. And they can just start moving forward and give him experience until Kikau is fit to play again.
Now we get some text here. What if one-on-one leg tackles was rewarded with defence, having to retreat only 5 metres instead of 10? Would this ensure a return to good old-fashioned technique? Ash from Noosa.
Well, playing off a 5-metre rule, I think that would definitely reduce, certainly risk of injury.
I reckon it would reduce head knocks.
Yeah, and the impacts, of course it would. I just think rewarding one-on-one legs tackles would be a start.
Yeah,
it is not rewarded at all anymore at all. If you're
anything, it's punished.
Yeah, if you're listening closely to the audio across the weekend, and if you see like a classic rugby league tackle where a defender chops a ball carrier's legs out from underneath him, as soon as the ball carrier hits the ground, the referee is screaming to the defender to let go. And if they don't release straight away, there's a set restart. And then we go, oh, well, okay, so why do we get these 2-man tackles and hold them up, and then we come in late to chop legs to take them to the ground? That's why. Yep. It's pretty straightforward, because we don't reward legs tackles. And so there's very little time spent on one-on-one tackles around the legs, and it's just not coached anymore. And we are creatures of habit. What we practice, we do on the weekend. Teams practice, the 2 up the top, and then someone coming in to squeeze the legs and take them to the ground. That's what they practice all week, and they do it on the weekend.
Honestly, I can't even recall practicing leg tackles. The lowest you get is the lowest I remember practicing tackles was a diamond shield and just below the sternum.
Yeah, sort of in your guts.
Yeah, but I never was, everyone's going, all right, let's actually practice low tackles where we chop people.
Mate, if there's anyone or any sort of players in certain positions that practice one-on-one tackles at training, it'd be outside backs, halves, centres, sometimes wingers, because they are in that position at times to make a one-on-one tackle with their opposing player. But outside of that, very, very seldomly would you have, say, middle forwards, back rowers practicing a legs tackle on anyone else.
So true. So true. Also, next topic, the Seagulls' defence issues. In their 5 games this year, they've conceded 30 points or more 3 times. How worried are you about them? And Tom Trbojevic has also declared he's good to go after suffering back spasms on their loss against Penrith.
Well, I think on top of everything that's going on with Manly at the moment, I'd say that would be the biggest issue, wouldn't it? Would be Tom and his fitness. Because of how important he is to their team. He just did not look comfortable on the weekend, did he?
Oh, I just think that, like, some people saying, oh, well, go out with a niggle, rah-rah. But surely in warm-up, they could see that he was not moving the way he should be moving. And I just think that, like, in my experience, when you go out and play footy half-hearted, not saying half-hearted like he, wasn't having a dig or whatever, but when you're not fully engaged in what you're doing because you're holding an injury, I usually get, like, more bumps, more injury. Like, something happens usually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do know what you mean. And mate, with back issues, right? And now, like I just touched on earlier, like, I never had any speed. I was certainly not an athlete like Tom Trbojevic. But I remember we had to play the Bulldogs. It was a short turnaround. We got stitched up. We got a short turnaround. We had to play the Bulldogs over in Perth, right? So we fly over to Perth, get into Perth. I think it was 2 days before the game? No, it might have been day before. And then had a great night's sleep. I was like, mate, felt really good. Wake up in the morning of the game, felt really good. Go for a walk down to the park just down the road from the hotel. And then we're doing some stretches and I get up and my back spasms, okay, like we're talking about Tommy Trbojevic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, God, like, what's going on here? I'd never had anything like it in my entire career, in my life, outside of football as well. But, mate, the whole day I laid on the physio table. They worked on me back, trying to loosen it up, trying to get it going again. Went to the field, chucked me gear on, and went out to warm up. It was funny, sitting in the dressing room. I'm trying to do me boots up. I couldn't even bend down and get me laces. Will Chambers is sitting next to me, just his eyes were wide open, just going, mate, you're trying to play? You're no chance. And in my head, I'm like, mate, how am I going to – I can't bend over and do me laces, let alone bend over and pick up a ball from dummy half. Anyway, so I went out, warmed up, and I was thousands. I couldn't even, like, twist my upper body to receive a pass and then let alone pass the ball. But so I know exactly what the issues are when you've got those back issues like Tom. So playing fullback and the way he plays the game at speed and how powerful he is and the way he moves, you could just watch him and see that he was uncomfortable on the weekend. So I think for mine, like, there's a bit going on there at the moment. I think they need to sort Tommy out and get him fit and making sure that he stays fit for the rest of the season. Yeah,
because he probably hasn't hit full gear.
No, not at all.
Top gear a whole season. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Thanks to the SEN app. Download it today for free in App Store and listen to anywhere, anytime. Smithy, I'm feeling really hungry today and I don't see any snits in front of me, which is, I would love to say it's surprising, but it's really not. It's really not surprising that there's no snits here.
Tommy, come on, Tom. Mate,
seriously?
One job.
I haven't eaten it all year. I can't remember if we even got it this year.
Have we
got it this year?
No, once. Mate, we've been on air 7 times. We've got it once.
Wow. Far out. Dropping the ball around here.
Mate, mate, come on. Anyway.
I don't feel appreciated, Smithy, and when I don't feel appreciated, I start sooking.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, let's get to best hands. Thanks to Schnitz, actually. Not thanks to Tom, thanks to Schnitz.
Yeah, thanks to Schnitz. 1
point this week goes to Trollmitt.
Charlie Mitt.
With his one-handed pass for Campbell Graham. They were just on fire on that side the other day. He could have had 4.
I know.
Mitchell. But, Campbell Graham, he didn't want to return the serve. He didn't want to give one back to him. He fumbled it right at the end, right on full time, actually. But it was that one-handed little lob pass over to Campbell Graham to help him score his third try against the Doggies. They had a day out, the Buns. 2 points go to Stephen Crichton. His no-look pass for Brian Taupau I think, was it from dummy half, to score against the Seagulls. Fantastic, Penrith. We'll talk about them a little bit later and what everyone's thoughts are on their premiership hopes now after a slow start. But 3 points. 3 points goes to Jermaine Isako for his leap above Brendan Elliott last week, obviously, against the Cows up in Townsville, to score his second try of the night against the Cowboys. And talk about a bloke that's found form, Jermaine Isako.
Oh, mate.
Unbelievable.
Jermaine Isako, like Wayne Bennett special. A Wayne Bennett special. Always had the talent. Or, he's got some big highlights. If you go back and watch some of the match winners he scored against some of the best teams in the comp, just too inconsistent. But he has been genuinely one of the form wingers of the comp this year.
Yeah, and you look at their squad, right? And there's been said a lot about question marks over their squad and who they put together for this season, and that they were going to struggle. But Wayne Bennett, he's waved his magic wand again, and he's just got all of their players playing a style of football that makes them hard to beat. They'll never beat themselves. They've had one poor showing this year, Kempy, and that's it.
And, it's something that Wayne, always says, not always says, but basically his MO is we'll never give up.
Yes.
We'll never give up.
Yep.
And he said that at the launch of the Dolphins. He said, I'm not sure. Basically said, I'm not sure how many wins we're going to get, but I tell you what, we'll never be an easy beat.
Yeah. Mate, he must roll that out everywhere he goes to every club.
Yeah.
I was talking to my old man about it the other day, and he said, mate, I've actually been to one of like a season launcher. I forget what club. It might have been when he come back to the Broncos, and he said it. He said those exact words.
Yeah. And it's like...
it's true, though.
It's true, and it's something as a player you can get behind. Almost like it relieves the pressure of winning, but it gives you the confidence to go, we can just fight. Let's just
go
fight.
do it. Yep.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Smithy, got text galore here. Hello, boys. Why isn't Tim Sheens under pressure? Not winning a single game, pretty much been full strength every week, whereas Hook and the Dragons have been performing.
Oh, well, I think there's been plenty said about the Tigers and what's going on there at the moment. Maybe because the Dragons come out and said, look, we're reviewing the coaching position at the moment. Hook's going to have to reapply. We're looking at others, whereas the Tigers haven't. But they certainly have copped some criticism every week.
And also, Hook's been there 3 years. Sheens has been there 2 seconds.
Yeah, six games.
6 games. Anyway, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got 1,000 things to talk about. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings. Have your say. Call 1300 01 1170. Talk to Smithy. Ask him your footy questions. Give us a text 0457 736 736. Follow our Twitter at Captain's Run NRL. And also make sure to follow SEN League on Instagram and TikTok. Let's talk about the Premiership favourites after 6 rounds, Smithy. Is there multiple contenders right now? Is there a clear contender? Broncos being on top of the table, yet I'd argue they're probably not even in the top 4 contenders at the moment regards to Premiership. What are your thoughts on the favourite to win the Premiership?
Well, watching Penrith on the weekend, they looked pretty ominous, didn't they? They looked like they'd found their groove once again. They'd been a little bit sort of stuttery to open the year. And I put that down to
Scott, what do you want to say?
A little bit of the change of personnel, particularly with Appy gone. Kikau a little bit. They had some great combinations around the middle of the park, around the ruck with Appy, and then the way they used to use Kikau. I think just adjusting to different players and the style of football that they played, I think it's taken them a little bit, but they look so good over the weekend. Ended up with a huge victory, of course. So you'd be brave to say that they won't be finishing top 4 again. I thought the Storm were back to some of their best football, and not to say that they were overly fancy about the way they went about their win against the Roosters, Kempy, but they looked very patient with the ball and they defended their line strongly. That was the most impressive thing for me. I don't know what your thoughts are, but probably those two across the weekend, from the performances from the weekend, those two were the standout. I know South Sydney Rabbitohs had a big victory over the Bulldogs, but you need to take into account they were playing against half a reserve grade side as well. Great to see some of their players, particularly Latrell, find a little bit of form, but I'd love to see them back that up against a side doing good things at the moment. They get a good chance this week against the Dolphins, but from the weekend, I'd say Penrith. I'd say Penrith and the Storm.
Right, yeah, mate, I totally agree. I think Penrith are out and out clear premiership favourites. It is absolutely incredible that we are into their fourth year of just. They don't look fatigued. They don't look not interested. They don't look like. They don't look. What's ironic about the Panthers and look, I know a lot of people think they go too far with, their antics and the way they carry on or whatever.
Yep.
But they back it up.
Yeah.
They back it up. So it's kind of like.
Well, that's the thing, mate. You can't question their football. You can't question what they're doing on the park on the weekend. There's some things that I don't particularly agree with the way they celebrate things and whatnot. But particularly the grand final win, the days afterwards, and some of their comments around Parramatta, the team that they beat. But you cannot argue the fact that they produce on the football field.
Yeah, and that's, I think, it's almost like a lot of young players coming through, they see that and they go, oh, how good. When you're young, you want to layer up, you want to do all that kind of stuff. But the problem is, when you do that, responsibility comes with that. And you need to be willing to put up the results if you're going to be doing that. And the Penrith Panthers, they just do it. They just, every single week, they're rocking up healthy, fit, fresh, energetic. It is amazing. I think Hoskins has been a revelation. I think that although he is a very different player to Kikau, he has replaced him. As soon as they need a quick play the ball, they just go bang, bang to Cleary, short ball off Cleary, Hoskins gets his front, and then they just spread it wide the other way. Tungall makes 20, 30 metres.
Yeah. Mate, a lot of people leading up to last week's game between the Storm and Roosters were talking about the Roosters. Like, they're back. They won 3 in a row. This is the team that we expect to go and do great things. They got the best squad in the competition. And talking about their premiership credentials, what were your thoughts after their performance against Melbourne?
Oh, mate, they're so hard. Because they've still got quite... They've got Satili Tupouniua, Angus Crichton, Matt Lodge, Connor Watson, all to come back.
Billy
Now,
Smith.
as well. And so it is... When you look at their side on paper, even without those players, they could still win a comp.
Yeah.
That's how good their side is on paper.
Yeah.
And so with the Roosters, my only concern is it's taking quite a while to figure out, how do we get Manu in the game? How do we get Smith in the game? How do we get Suoliti, Tedesco, Keary, Walker, Radley? It's almost too much.
It's almost like they've got too many guns.
And someone's going to have to take it back seat.
Yeah. And I think the style of football that they play is a little bit different now because of Brandon Smith coming to the club. He's a completely different number 9 to Sam Verrills. He plays the game almost opposite to the way Sam Verrills did, where Verrills, he's a good runner of the football, but he played with a bit more sort of craft and a bit more finesse. Whereas Brandon Smith, the way he plays, he's just shot out of a cannon every time he runs the football. If he sees an opportunity, he'll take you on. So maybe they're still adjusting to that. I'm not too sure, but it was a little bit disappointing to watch their performance, to go down to Melbourne. They'd taken some great form down there. Let's not get our wires crossed. They took some great form down there without Tedesco, of course. But in saying that, they've had Joey Manu at the back, and they've won 6 of 8 games with him playing with the number 1 jersey on his back. And all they could do was they could manage only one try.
He's a golden boot winger we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's not a bum. He's one of the best. Well, he's one of the best. He's voted the best player in the world last year. So for them to come up with only 1 try, I thought that was a little bit disappointing, and maybe that is to do with them sorting out their tactics, their game plan, like you said.
Now with the Broncos, they're on top of the table, but we spoke about it last week, and I just think that I do think they're still a year or two away from being ready for a premiership. I don't know whether they've got the finer details sorted in their game. I think we're watching maybe very early days Penrith. Now, look, are they going to go on a run like Penrith? I don't, that's unprecedented. I don't think we'll see that again for a very long time.
Yeah.
But what they've got is a very young roster that's super explosive, They just need to sort out the little things in their game, building pressure, all of that kind of stuff.
Well, Kempy, mate, you might know a bit more than me, but I think this year they really need to make the most of their roster this year because at the end of this year, mate, they lose Flegler and they lose Herbie Farmworth as well. Two massive outs for them. Flegler at the moment, he's one of the form front rows in the competition. We all know how good Herbie is as well. He's been doing some great stuff out in the centres for the Broncos. I don't know. I think they can really give it a red hot crack this year, but they just need to keep. I guess when you're watching players, particularly like a Walsh, Ezra Mam, some of these younger guys in key positions, at times it looks like they get a little bit overexcited in games, and they're just trying to do too much. They're just trying to do too much. Whereas if they can think a little bit more, have a mindset towards their game to be a little bit more patient and not looking to score on every play, not looking to, make line breaks or put people through holes on every pass that they throw, I think they can really build an extremely consistent season this year. Because if they were to do that, let's just say their halves and their nines can do that, and obviously Reece Walsh at fullback, they have got a forward pack that can match any other forward pack in the competition. You talk about, like Flegler, he's going to be missing this week with concussion protocols. But, when Flegler starts, Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan's in there as well. Jordan Ricky on one edge. They're just... They're one of the better forward packs in the competition. You know that they will always stand up against the other team. You just need those key position players to have a mindset that we don't have to score every play. We can we can kick early. We can stay patient. We can have 5 hit-ups at times and just kick down the other end and just continue to build pressure. We don't have to score 30 and 40 points to get a good win. We can score 12 and have a good victory as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree. If they can sort that out, 100% they've got the roster. My only concern is I feel like what will happen is they'll sort it out. Yep. They'll go on a run.
Yeah.
Then they'll get excited because they're young, they're brash, they're in your face.
Yep.
Then they'll have a few games where they drop it. They'll sort it out. Then they'll go on a run. And I just think that you're totally right. They need to take advantage of their roster. A roster with Flegler, Carrigan, Haas, Jensen, Taupau.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. Then we've got Kobe Hetherington coming back. But it's just, I just don't know. Could they hold it together enough to get a top 4 finish and then go on and play 4 of the best games of their life?
Yeah.
If they do sort out everything you said, they absolutely can.
Yeah.
I just don't know whether they're there just yet.
Well, outside of winning a premiership, do you think they should be top 4 though?
Well, the only reason why I say top 4 is because you basically history would tell historically. That's it. That's the word. I host a rugby league show. How crazy is that? I can't even talk. Historically, it would suggest that you can't win outside the top 4.
Yeah.
I do think that they have the roster to finish top 4, though. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything. Look, if they don't make the 8, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster.
Mate, absolutely, it is.
So I actually right now I have them in the top 4. 4 to 6. 4 to 6.
Yeah.
I just need to see a bit more from them.
Yep.
I just want to see them A, on the road, B, against. I want to see them play Penrith again, Roosters, Rabbitohs. Sharkies.
Well, mate. Let's if we look at their next sort of 5 to 6, it's a pretty solid draw. So we got the Derby this week.
Yep.
And then they got Parramatta up in Darwin.
Yep.
And then they go. This is their next month of football. They got the Rabbitohs at home. They got Manly. Well, it's at Suncorp, but that's Magic Round. Then they got the Storm in Melbourne, and then they've got Penrith.
Ouch.
So they go Para. After this weekend, they got Para, Bunnies, Manly, Melbourne, Penrith.
And for one of the Melbourne or Penrith games will be without Origin players, I'd assume.
Yeah, and they are back-to-back games at Storm, Panthers.
So that'll basically be the test, I think. Like if we can scrape through that, then we're a real chance of making the 4.
Yeah.
If we struggle to pick up wins over the next whatever weeks, it might be a bit tough.
And that'll be a fair indication too, mate. Like those Storm, the Storm Panthers games back to back. That's round 11, round 12. That's halfway through the season. I reckon we'll have a fair idea of where the Broncos are at and what they're doing come that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And just quickly on the Storm, I just don't know, where did this energy come from? You know, you had this incredibly tough win the week before that was all about defence. Yeah. And then, you know, my questions have been for probably maybe a year, maybe a year and a half. Mm-hmm. It's been like the Storm forward pack, do they when they don't have Nelson on the field, do they have the oomph to go with the top-tier forward packs? Mm. And then they come out against Roosters, who are arguably most aggressive, dominant forward pack in the comp. You know, I'd say Penrith are, but you could make the argument for Roosters as well. And they dominate them. It is amazing. Every time I think the Storm just aren't going to make a run, they do it.
If anyone watched the game, like it was quite heavy. The rain got quite heavy through periods of that match, and they just handled it better than the Roosters. They finished with nearly 90% completion rate. Wow. For the game. So that just showed the mindset that they took into it going, hey, righto, wet game, pretty awful conditions. If we hold on to the footy better than the Roosters, we're a good chance of winning. And all they did was they wore them down, mate. Mm. They wore them down. They held on to the football. They chose to kick early on a few occasions, which it's a play that really, it's almost gone out of the game, but it's such an effective play. It's so underrated, mate. You're right. Fourth tackle kick. Harry Grant, I think, picked up a 40-20 on a fourth tackle kick. He got Joey Manu out of position, and so he took advantage of that. And the slippery conditions, the ball skidded on. It was a lovely kick with the right boot. But that's all they did. They completed well. They didn't do anything fancy, and all they did was they wore the Roosters down. Which is what we've sort of become accustomed to with the Melbourne Storm and the way Craig Bellamy coaches, but that was the difference for me, was that they respected the football, they kicked early, and they smothered the Roosters defensively.
Oh, I totally agree, and I just think I agree in regards to the early kick, because when you're under pressure and another team has momentum, a lot of teams go, we need to attack our way out of this. Yeah. I think that when you're under pressure and you need momentum, you need to defend your way out of it and attack with your defense.
Yeah.
And so early kicks, I love them, because if everyone's on board, everyone knows it, and it's almost a message to the team, this set, we're attacking with our D. And that's how we'll get numbers in the tackle, dominant tackles, and we'll wring that momentum back, rather than trying to do this crazy play where we make a line break and score a try.
Yeah, that's right, mate. And it's really just about, making the opposition uncomfortable, and you do that through early kicks and a good chase. Like, have a look at the way Jonathan Thurston played for the most part of his career. That's all he'd do to opposition teams. He'd get the ball on his own side or halfway, 40 metres out, and he'd just kick a low stabbing kick down to the corner. His whole team would know about it. They'd get down there in one big line, have the fullback posted back there by himself. All of a sudden, they've made a tackle 4 metres from the opposition try line, and they've got no one back there to run the ball. So by the time they run out of tackles, it's fifth tackle to kick. They've made 15 metres, and that's when you start to win the battle. You win the battle with field position, and you start applying pressure.
Yeah, mate, totally agree. We're going to head to a break. After the break, we're going to get to your text, and we're going to share our Holy Schnitz moment, thanks to Schnitz. Holy Schnitz! It's my favourite part of the show, Smitty. You know those European soccer commentators are like, goal!
Yeah, they just go on for ages.
Yeah, I yell, holy Schnitz to the TV every single time something crazy happens, and my missus goes, wow, you're the man that's supposed to be in my life for the rest of my life? Jeez, I've made a bad decision.
Oh, she's asking herself questions. It's not good, mate.
Seriously, not good at all. But Smithy, what's your Holy Schnitz moment of the week?
Well, mate, segue to my Holy Schnitz moment of the week. It does involve soccer. It was the Matildas. This morning, they come up with a 2-0 victory over the England women's side. Lionesses, I think they're called.
Yes.
2-0. They have not, the English women's team, they have not lost a game in 30 matches, Kempy. 30 matches. So this is quite incredible. I think the last victory we had over them was like 2.5 years ago. Is that right? Am I right by saying that?
It's a while ago.
I might have made it up. I don't know. But nonetheless, 2-0. What a great way for our Aussie girls to get ready for the World Cup. The FIFA Women's World Cup coming up 99 days away. Only
Incredible.
99 days. And make sure, if you want to listen to all the action, you'll get it right here on SEN. All the channels in SEN, check them out. You'll get it live, all the games.
I might come in here and actually yell, "Goal!" when Sammy Kerr scores the match winner to win the World Cup.
Oh, mate, imagine the Matildas winning the Women's World Cup on home soil.
Stop it.
Be the biggest thing
Stop
ever.
it.
It'll be like Kathy Freeman taking the gold at the 2000 Olympics.
Greatest moment in Australian sport history.
Yep.
In that suit and just, Sydney Olympics. It was beautiful. Now, my holy schnitz moment of the week is going to surprise listeners, but it was the Raiders' performance. For two reasons. I had tears rolling down my eyes, as I said, my face, sorry, not my eyes, when I yelled holy schnitz. But I just loved their grit. I honestly think if you wanted to ask, like every club has an identity. You know, Broncos are kind of known as the glamour club, kind of elite and flashy. Storm, gritty, tough, excellence. Roosters, glamour's club.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you wanted to know what the Raiders' identity was as a club, go and watch that game. That's what they're about.
Yep.
Tough, gritty. They'll bring you down, chip on their shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not playing good footy, but let's go up to Brisbane and beat the people that are leading the comp. Like, that's such a Raiders thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, mate, I'm with you. We've spoken about the Raiders and the style of footy that they play, particularly against the sides that are going well, and they like to get in and just disrupt them a lot, and I think they did that. That's as good as they've looked all year, and great to see Jared Croker back too, slotting a few goals from all over the park, slotting them from the sideline, left footer, of course.
And what I loved about it is that for many years, early in his career, yeah, of course, like defensively, he could make some misreads. But then he fixed his defence up, and this myth kind of lingered that he was not the best defender. On the weekend, 16 tackles, 0 misses, and a lot of one-on-one tackles against Katoni Staggs.
Yeah, that's a big effort. Like when you're playing the Broncos, you need that guy marking Staggs to have big game, and he did it, mate. Like bit of pressure on him, like coming back in. It's been a while since he's played first grade, but played so well.
Yeah, and I love those kind of stories where they don't come back in. They almost come back in and remind you why they've been around for as long as they have. You know, they remind you why, he's been struggling with injury, but this guy is a high quality centre. And he's still got a lot to give to the club. So I think he's how far away from 300? He's only a few games from 300.
Yeah, he's not far.
7 games. Tommy held up fingers, and I was like, oh, my God. He's put me on a spot here. I've got to count these. Got that winning taste right now. Schnitz, handcrafted schnitzels, made fresh and made just for you. See you after the break. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We got a text here, Smithy. Hey, Smithy in the beak. Drulsy here. Long-time listener, first-time texter. How do we realistically prevent the accidental hits like we saw with Taupau and Rapana, or do we just accept that these are type of incidents will occur in the greatest game of all?
Well, this tackle in particular, it's been quite divisive, hasn't it, across the weekend since it happened. Now, like it was very graphic. Let's point that out. Like there's a lot of blood streaming from Jordan Rapana's head, which it's never nice looking at those pictures. But in my opinion, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong, but in my opinion, I don't know what we want Marty Taupau to do there. I really don't know. He's on a kick chase. He's going down to pressure the fullback. I've heard people say that there's a duty of care that he should show for Jordan Rapana when he's travelling down to go and make that tackle. But is that rugby league? Like, what game are we now playing when we're asking defenders? Pretty much what we're saying without saying it is, righto, as defenders, we need to run down when we're approaching a ball carrier. You need to slow down, assess the situation, wait to see what the ball carrier is going to do, and then make your decision. What game is that? It's not the game that I've played. It's not the game that I've watched for a long, long time. I I don't know where the game is going if that's what we're asking our defenders to do. Essentially, that is what we're doing. No one has come out and said that. We use words like duty of care and unnecessary force and high impact. Well, the game, that's what the game is about, isn't it? Is it not? Like, we probably need to get some feedback from our listeners, Kempy, but isn't that the game that we love so much? Is we love the physicality. We love the impact. Unfortunately, it's not a game for everyone. And unfortunately, at times, these accidental incidents will occur.
From a footy perspective, I would have been okay with the Raiders just get the ball and it's play one. So rather than a penalty, it's just play one. The graphic nature of it made it a really tough call. But I agree with you in regards to why do we call outside backs brave when they take these balls? We call it brave because players are screaming down about to smash them.
Yep.
If we continue down this path, then look, maybe I don't want to be hyperbolic. This is a freak accident. It's not going to happen again in a very long time. But let's just say we continued down this path. We would no longer be saying that outside backs are braves because outside backs would do this. I've got nothing to worry about. I just have to stay there, catch the ball, and I know that the chasing defenders are going to stop, wait for me, and then make their decision. So the line of argument that Taupau had a duty of care, I strongly disagree with that. I strongly disagree with that. But that I do also understand the argument of, yes, we don't want to be ruling on optics, but also there is a line of far out, that's bad. That is pretty hectic.
Absolutely.
And so I'm of the mind of I think in regards to the decision of was it a penalty or not a penalty, I can see both sides.
Yep.
In regards to people saying that we've got to have duty of care on a kick chase, we've got to watch where our knees go.
Yeah.
I just think that's a bit far.
Yeah,
it's a bit
mate,
much.
I'm with you. And look, don't get me wrong, I'm all for getting rid of reckless play. I'm not about just everyone go out there and just go a million miles an hour and just run into each other willy-nilly. You can't have someone just... if Marty Taupau squared Rapana up and just ran directly through him, I can understand, there being repercussions and a penalty, and that is being reckless. But what he did, you could actually see him go down there. He steadied slightly to prepare himself for a tackle. Jordan Rapana, whether people want to admit this or not, he actually, he ducks to protect himself, so he lowers his head. And Marty, when you see his arms sort of come in to make a tackle, he half lifts them over Rapana because he knows if he makes high contact, it's going to be a penalty. And then it's a glance. It's a glance. If he wanted to, he could have gone straight through Jordan Rapana. I'm telling you, if he wanted to square him up, he could have. But he made a decision not to do it. The concern I have with the continuous dialogue about duty of care is we're going to get to a stage where players won't be fulfilling their role in the football side as defenders. They'll be going down to make tackles, and in the back of their mind, they'll be like, oh, I can't rush in here and attack this ball carrier as a defender because I may get in trouble. I may be suspended for something going slightly wrong. They'll stop and they'll hesitate. And Kempy, you've played this game at a high level. The one thing that you cannot afford to do in the NRL is hesitate.
Oh.
If you hesitate for half a second, a quarter of a second, players of the quality playing in the NRL, they will beat you. They will run around you. They will run through you, and then your position in the team is at jeopardy because you're not making tackles. You're not doing your job. I just do not understand what we're asking our players to do right now, and a lot of it is off injuries, mate. It is. Unfortunately, it is. And it's been said already about this particular incident. If Jordan Rapana got a knock in the head, he just got up and played the ball, didn't have a cut, nothing would have been done about this.
Yeah.
Nothing would have been done about it, mate. And that's the unfortunate thing that where our game is at now is that we're reacting to the pictures. And if something doesn't look good publicly, the game is taking a stance to say, oh, look, well, he's not going unpunished. We're going to punish this player because of the action that he took as a defender. And it's just not fair. I've never seen our game in particular actively look to penalise its own players like it's doing right now. During games, putting them in the sin bin, and then when it comes to the match review committee, they're being rubbed out of our own. We're rubbing them out of our own game. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but I've never seen our game actively look to punish our players like we're doing right now.
Oh, yeah, mate, I agree. I think that a lot of the time refs are looking for, almost as if they have a mandate to, like, instead of reffing the game to make it as smooth as possible, it's ref the game so the optics to the public are as nice as possible.
Exactly.
And rugby league, they're gladiators. These boys are gladiators. They're out there, and girls and women, they're out there ripping and tearing. They're not like, sometimes I wish, we'd get rid of slow-mo for one. It kills me. It kills me. You know, anyway, that's a different story. But I agree, and as I said, I understand there's a line. Like if a guy's bleeding all over and it's a knee to the head, I can get the aversion to that go, okay, this is really somewhere where as a game, we just got to...
We don't want to be,
We don't want to be here. Let's just give the penalty, empathy for it.
Yeah. And particularly with the actions that caused it were reckless. Absolutely, mate. Yep.
Yep. And so I get that for sure. But I do think, like, look at the Kafusi situation a few weeks ago. That was a decision made purely on optics.
Yeah.
Since then, we have seen way worse in the back shots.
And later. And
nothing has happened. And all because the optics was Kafusi was jamming blokes for 2 weeks before that, and it looked aggressive and it looked like it was theatrical in nature, and everyone was talking about these blokes getting jammed. And so the only concern I have is where we're reffing the game on optics rather than principles. Yep. I understand there's a grey area of like sometimes it's like sometimes we need to bend the rules, but we should be reffing on what are the principles, what are the rules, rather than, wow, this looks bad for the game. Because, you know, I just think when we go down this path, we're going to get to a point where fullbacks and wingers can just stand there, catch it, not have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And halfbacks can go all the way into the line just pretending to dummy.
Yep.
And then just do whatever they want pretty much.
Yep. And like talking about, you know, duty of care and all this sort of stuff, like, was there ever a game that you played in the NRL where you walked on the field and thought, you know what, there's absolutely zero chance of me getting injured today? Was there ever a time?
No.
Or did you know that there was a level of risk that it could happen?
I left the field stoked I wasn't injured.
Yeah. Like you'd go on the field and go, look, there's every chance that something could happen today accidentally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm not going to look at it in a view like, you know, that there was any intent in there. You can see it's clear when players have intent or they have reckless action. It's clear as day. But when they're accidents, let's treat them that way. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Agreed. No, as I said, in regards to the call, I can understand the actual decision of like maybe penalty, maybe not penalty, but the idea that Taupau has a responsibility to run slower is I just don't understand that. I don't understand that. Anyway, we're going to head to a break. Rugby league, it's the game that keeps on giving. We got plenty more to talk about. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Time to see which young players are climbing up the Bailey ladder. Worksite trusted for over 60 years. Smithy, what do we got here?
Righto, mate. First nomination this week for Bailey Ladders. Toby Couchman, Dragons against the Titans. You know, narrow loss, but the young fella, 19-year-old, he ran for 80 metres, had 2 tackle breaks and made 31 tackles in just 51 minutes of playing time. So really impressed with Toby's performance on the weekend. Second nomination, Albert Hopewadi with the Raiders. I thought he was absolutely awesome. I thought their back three was so good.
Yeah.
On the weekend against the Broncos. Only 22 years of age. He had a try, 3 tackle breaks, and ran for over 150 metres. And some tough carries too, Kempy.
Oh, mate.
Some really tough carries out of his own end, it's great to see. Young fella doing that. And Junior Taupau with the Tigers, playing against the Eels, of course. 21-year-old, had 1 try, 4 line breaks, 1 try assist, and a tackle break, and ran for over 220 metres. Not a bad day out, that one.
Look, you don't want to go crazy or whatever, but I think they need to try to lock him up soon to stop potential. Because if he plays another couple games like this, the big dog clubs will just come sniffing and take him.
Oh, easily. Yep, they just swoop in. Still the young talent. Off they go.
Yep. And when you've got the potential of him and the body shape, the athleticism, the aggressiveness, I really do think that the Tigers should look to try to get him earlier, locked away sooner rather than later. Oh, similar to the Dom Young situation.
Yeah,
you know, he started playing some really good footy. I'm not sure what happened, but Newcastle, I really feel, should have locked him in mid last year.
Yep.
Because I think as you know, Smithy, when you're at a club and your contract's got, let's say it's got a year and a half to go, you don't want to go anywhere else. Like, life's good. You're playing good footy. You love where you play.
Yep.
Whereas when you get close to the end of your contract, even if you're happy, it's almost natural just to go, what else is out there?
Yeah, what's out there?
Yeah, what's going on? We're going to head to a break. Before we head to a break, we've got a little text here. You two fellas will be coaching the 18th team when it comes into the comp. For the right price, of course. Great analysis, as always, from you boys. Willow. So, Smithy,
cheers, Willow.
Mate, all right, let's call the NRL.
Yeah.
18th team. I'll be your assistant, Smithy.
Hey, mate, I was just about to say you're the head coach. I'm the assistant, mate.
I want the good conversations. I want to tell the boys they're debuting. I don't want to drop them. I don't want to drop them at all.
Oh, no, not a chance. Not a chance. What is your price, though, for the right price? What Willow said, for the right price, of course. What's your price, Kempy?
Head coach. You what, we're not talking. My mental health is the price. And I'm not going to pay it. I'm not paying it.
Your marriage?
Yeah, and my marriage, which is bloody already expensive. We're going to head to a break. See you on the other side. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. First text I just read, why all the annoying AFL lads? Oh, the best. Well, actually, listeners, SEN is huge in AFL down in Melbourne and Victoria, and all the other states play AFL as well.
Yep.
Hey, boys, it feels like, to me, the Roosters are trying to play like the Dolphins, but with all their talent, they get caught up playing too bombastic when they just need to keep it simple like the Finns. Dylan, thoughts, Smithy?
Bombastic? What's...
Mr. Bombastic.
Yeah,
very
I know.
fantastic.
When I read that, I was like, that's the first thing I thought of was that song. Yeah, look, I don't know. Like, are they trying to play like the Dolphins, as in just trying to complete high and get through their sets? If they're trying to do that, they haven't, because on the weekend they finished the game with like something like 62% completion rate. And this isn't knocking the Roosters. I think they're a wonderful footy side with a great talent across the park. They got one of the best coaches in the competition, Trent Robinson, one of the smartest guys. If they get their game together and actually hold on to the ball like the Dolphins do, they won't lose too many games for the remainder of this season. And like they're one of the teams, when they're playing their best, they'll go all the way to the grand final. Well, they have the opportunity to do so.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings every day. And Spitwater. Spitwater high-pressure cleaners, tools, not toys, and tough and ready. Smithy, Dolphins versus Rabbitohs, Thursday, 7:50 at Suncorp Stadium. That hurts to hear, but anyway. Dolphins team news. Jesse Bromwich returns from illness. Jared Wallace is out with a concussion. Robert Jennings replaces Edric Lee on the wing. And Rabbitohs team news, Alex Johnson returns on the wing. Jai Arrow returns at prop in place of Fifita Totola. How do you see this playing out, mate?
Is this the first game Jai Arrow is playing for the season?
So.
For the Rabbits, playing first grade. Yeah, he's had a calf injury, I think it was. May have been some sort of leg injury. So great to see Jai Arrow back in playing first grade again. It'll make a huge difference to that Rabbitohs side. Although they had a big victory on the weekend. Interesting matchup, this one. Really interesting. They're heavy favourites, the Rabbitohs, after the big win against the Bulldogs. I really don't see it that clearly, though. I just think that, I mentioned earlier about the Rabbitohs, the scoreline that they put on the Bulldogs. They were playing against a side that, then they were half a reserve grade side. A lot of those guys were put out of reserve grade playing up in a much tougher competition like the NRL. I don't know, this Dolphins team, they keep delivering, Kempy. They just keep delivering. So I'm not in a position really to write them off. Particularly with Jesse Bromwich returning, they've got a great lineup. I think Kafusi's back too. Felice Kafusi, I think he might be back from suspension. Am I right in saying that? I think he might be playing as well. So, particularly if he's back, they've got one of their stronger lineups of the season. Of course, O'Sullivan's still out. But I think this will be a much closer game than what the bookmakers are saying.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. I think the Dolphins, they've moved past the point of, they're just winning off passion and the fact that they're new club into, hang on a sec, maybe there's some principles and standards that this team has set as a squad that they refuse to back down on. Essentially, they've had one bad game.
Yeah.
One bad game, really, which is incredible for a new club. And, every week they remind us that rugby league is a simple game. You run hard, you tackle hard, you try to complete. You win most games, then you lose. Whereas we get so overcomplicated in set plays and, need to do this and need to do that. And I just think that the Dolphins have reminded everyone that it's just all about ripping in. It really is. Because everyone that gets to NRL is a good footy player.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
So when people go, they don't have the roster to score points, it's like, these are good footy players. They would have, first of all, every footy player, most of them anyway, would have played the opposition that they're playing growing up. So they're as good as those guys, or at least good enough to get a win on them every now and then. And I think the Dolphins are a reminder. In regards to Rabbitohs, this is a must-win, non-negotiable game for the Rabbitohs. If they want to be in that top four, they need to start stringing them together now.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And they've got the team to do that. I think is a really big game for is the Dolphins back three. So the hammer, Taupau, he's coming off a huge game in his return to Townsville after leaving the Cowboys last year. But Isako and Robert Jennings, on the wing, they've got huge games defensively. Now, Taupau at fullback, he's the one that's marshalling, the defensive line. He's telling players where to match up on the Rabbitohs attacking players. He's got a huge game to do that because I tell you what the Rabbitohs are really good at. They're very good at disguising their set plays. So they can put a half out the back. So like a Cody Walker or an Ilias, they hide behind the ruck and then they shift late to one side and create extra men. So being able to identify that and get your defensive line set and ready to go. And then also I said back three, you could add the centres in there as well into this defensive game that I spoke about. So Ewan Aiken and Branko Lee being able to defend the set plays that they're gonna see coming from the Rabbitohs. It's their strength. Now they've got a great forward pack. There's no doubt about that. The Rabbitohs, they got big men. They run hard. They play the ball fast at times. But it's when they get momentum and they get time to put those set plays on where Walker, Ilias, Latrell Mitchell get deep into your defensive line and just be able to create space for their centres and wingers. That's where the big test will come for the Dolphins this weekend. And sorry, I got that wrong. Kafusi's one more week, isn't he?
Yeah, one more week because he fought it.
Yep.
But initially he was on the 3 weeks,
That's
so
right.
he would have been back if he didn't fight it. Sharkies versus Roosters, Friday, 6 p.m, PointsBet Stadium.
Big names in for the Roosters. Lodge and Tedesco back.
Pretty sure Crichton's back as well, isn't he?
Is he?
Oh, reserve grade, okay.
He's playing reserve grade. I think they're starting to get a few back. I think Satili Tupanua played on the weekend for the reserve grade side. Is it the Bears? Is that their Reggie's team?
Yep.
North Sydney Bears. I think, so Crichton's playing this week, reserve grade, great to hear. I think they had other couple of players playing Reggie's too, which they could get back in the next sort of fortnight. Great news for the Roosters. I think they really would have had a hard look at themselves after that loss to the Storm, and very disappointed with the way they played. They're a much better footy side than that, as we know. Sharkies, Wade Graham returns, of course. Oregon Kafusi. Look, I'm happy to back the Roosters in this one. If they get it right, I think Tedesco at the back, it helps out, particularly Walker and Keary. I think he just settles them a little bit with him being at the back, just being on those set plays that they train all week and they know are coming. I think with him being back in particular and the work rate that he produces through the middle of the field, I think they could be too strong for the Sharkies.
Roosters will be really disappointed with last week's game. Outside of the Rabbitohs, and the Rabbitohs haven't been playing the best footy, essentially Storm were the first real test for the Roosters in regards to top-tier teams that can win a comp. And unfortunately, they just really came up lacking. And look, I understand they had some injuries out, but I think the Roosters' standards are so high because they've set them themselves. They're a good side. They're a great side. And so I think they're going to come out absolutely firing. It's a massive test for Sharks, though. Yeah. Got to sort their defence out. Yeah. They have to. Otherwise, it's just going to be a long year.
Well, mate, it's been a part of their game. That was so good last year. Yeah. So good last year. And it's a bit like the Cowboys. Their defence was outstanding last year. I think those two teams finished in the top 4 as far as like best defensive teams in the competition. And they're both struggling to find that form, when they're defending their line this year, which is, resulted in a few losses for each of them. But they're coming off the bye. They should be fresh. 3 out of 4 sides, or it might be 4 out of 5 sides have won off the back of a bye. The only team to lose off the back of a bye was Penrith. So funnily enough. So, the trend is saying that the team that come off the bye go on to win their return match. Be interesting to see how much energy they come out of the blocks with, the Sharkies.
Hasn't the bye come at the perfect time for a guy like Nicho Hynes? Like, I know he was back and playing good footy, but just to make sure that the calf is good, not fatigued, gets a couple of games in, then has a week off. It's almost the perfect scenario. But yeah, like I think the Roosters with Tedesco at the back should get the job done. As I said, the Sharkies, it's got to start coming together because they're not. It's not like they've got this history with this squad of like, it's going to be a good guys. It's we're late starters. Towards the end of the year, we go on a charge. Whereas you look at the Rabbitohs, there is history where they can go, you know what, like we'll come together. We'll go on a run. Whereas the Sharkies, it's like this whole new setup where they're going so well. It's quite new, and you just don't want to be chasing those points for top 4 mid-year.
No, that's right, mate. And like they. Possibly, if they don't get their wins coming soon, they may have their best player involved in Origin. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's talk about Nicho Hynes being involved, possibly as a halves partner to Cleary. Not sure whether that will happen, but if he's not there, they're talking, possibly a 14 and him being in the side. So, if they're missing him through Origin, if they don't bank some wins now, they'll be chasing their tail at the end.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with the great Cameron Smith. Seagulls versus the Storm. Friday, 8 p.m. at 4 Pines Park. That sounds weird to say. It's rookie. Ruben Garrick, concussion. Carl Lawton, shoulder, are both out, replaced by Raymond Vunga and Aaron Woods. Cooper Johns has also been named at 5'8", with Schuster named on the reserves. K.O. Weeks goes back to the bench. Storm team news. Nick Meaney is out. Devastating. I thought he had the best game of his career on the weekend. Cam Munster moves to fullback. Pezzett starts in the halves alongside Jerome Hughes. How do you see this game playing out, Smithy?
Well, Manly need to improve, don't they? If they're a chance to match it with Melbourne, particularly if Melbourne turn up with the same mindset as what they did last week, which I think they will. I think they've half turned the corner after that, particularly after that loss to the Titans. I think that was really a moment where they went back to Melbourne and said, hey, listen, like we're not playing good football at all. We're not playing the style of football that we plan to play this year. And they just look a lot more settled and patient, particularly when they have the football in hands. They have an understanding of what they want to do at different moments in the game, different phases of the game. That's what I've seen, at least over the last couple of games that they've played. for Manly, they jumped out of the blocks hot, didn't they? They jumped out of the blocks hot, but they've hit a couple of stumbling blocks over the last couple of weeks. I guess the game where they finished with a draw against Newcastle, they scored 32 but couldn't put Newcastle away. That's probably where a few alarm bells would have been ringing. And then last week it all fell to pieces for them. So they're going to have to bounce back quickly, because if they don't, they could find themselves on the same sort of scoreline as what they did last week when they take on Melbourne.
Yeah, I Manly definitely need to bounce back quickly, because, I think we spoke about it in regards to the night situation happened, and you go, ooh, it's almost like a confidence. It hits your confidence as a team that's considered a dark horse. You need all the confidence you can get, because as soon as something goes wrong, the same squad from last year starts looking at each other going, uh-oh, like, are we where we think we are? And then obviously they come out against the Penrith Panthers. And I said last week, it's a real opportunity for Manly to get that confidence back and go, you know what, we are who we think we are.
Yep.
And then they go out and get absolutely oosed. And it's like, oh, God.
Oosed.
Yeah, absolutely oosed. And so it is super important. Look, doesn't necessarily have to win the game, but they need to be competitive in this game, because if they get towed up again, then they really will start looking around the changing room going, oh, boys, are we where we were last year? Are we about to go in the same situation? Yeah. And, I would argue Broncos are in the same similar boat. Yeah, they're on top of the table, but if they have a couple of losses, I guarantee you they're going to start looking around the changing room going, uh-oh.
Here we go again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the one thing for Manly is they can't second guess themselves on the approach that the Storm will have for this game. I think it's meant to be a little bit wet and wild on Thursday. On Friday in Sydney. So the Storm are going to bring the same approach to what they did last week in a rainy Melbourne game, where they just they didn't necessarily just tuck the ball under the arm and have 5 hit-ups and then kick. They were happy to spread the ball, but they played high-percentage football. So they didn't put each other under pressure. They weren't trying to force passes. They weren't trying to force offloads. They weren't trying to pass miracle passes at the line and put people through the line. There was just early ball, good use of the football still, but they got through their sets and they kicked well. And then they just smothered the opposition with defence. So there's no guessing. There shouldn't be any guessing at all from a Sea Eagles point of view, the way the Storm are going to travel up to Sydney and play. It'll be almost replica of last week, and their key position players, they should expect a lot of pressure coming at them in a game played in conditions that are pretty tricky, because they understand that these conditions that you're playing when it's wet and it's a bit uncomfortable, if you can apply as much pressure on the opposition as you can, it increases your chances of winning.
Yeah, it's the Storm. I got a theory, Smithy, and
right.
Shoot it down.
Okay.
So you've got a young squad that I would assume a lot of them, it was their first Storm preseason, first or second.
Yep.
And we all know that if you're in your first Storm preseason, you go out, you have to work, you got to do the army camp, and it's a shock to the system. And I just wonder, was this young, newish Storm squad just a bit fatigued going into the round 1 and 2? Because the energy they're playing with now, it is I agree with you, they're doing all the right things, little things, but I just think the energy that they're playing with now, it's just different. It's just different to round 1.
Yeah. Well, you could probably, there's probably a handful of young guys experiencing their first Storm preseason, and it is tough, mate. Like, all preseasons are tough. Doesn't matter what club you're involved in, but notoriously Melbourne Storm, it's pretty brutal, and they don't just try and break you down physically. They try and break you down mentally. With some of the work that they do down there. So maybe there was a bit of a lag in sort of fatigue from those preseason weeks that they had leading into the season. But I would like to think that wasn't an issue early on. I just think that they weren't playing the style of footy that they'd practiced to play. And particularly, I think that the moment where the light bulb moment for them and I know we've only played 6 rounds, but was when they come up here to the Titans, and then the coach post-game questioned their care. Like, where was their care for their footy side? Where was their care for the football that they played? I think that was the moment. And that, for me, it wasn't anything physical. It wasn't about their fitness or their fatigue or where they were at. It was more their attitude. Their attitude towards their footy. I know they were missing their big gun, Cam Munster, and he's made a huge difference. I think it showed the other night, mate, like their most important player is Munster. There's no doubt about it. Although they've got, terrific players elsewhere. Harry Grant, of course. Jerome Hughes, Pappenhausen when he returns. They've got great players right across the park, but their key man is Munster. And I think their attitude just wasn't where it needed to be when you're playing at this level. I think they may have just gone out against the Titans thinking, well, we're the Storm, we'll pull on this jersey and we'll just need to take the field and we'll win the game, which it isn't the case.
Yeah, I remember last year there was this yarn around, because Munster was off contract, that Munster's not the most important player anymore.
Oh, please.
It's like, okay. Go and watch the game on the weekend. He's so good. Now, on to the Warriors versus Cowboys, Saturday, 3 p.m, Mount Smart Stadium.
Mate, I've got the Warriors at home.
Really?
I'm just not seeing anything from the Cowboys at the moment that you could really sit down and go, I'm going to back them on a big travel game like this one.
I just reckon, surely Peyton and all the boys are stinging.
Well, they have to. Well, you'd think so, wouldn't you? You would think so. But, Nanai comes back, which is a big in. But, mate, Griffin Neem, he's been one of the standouts for the Cowboys.
I know.
He's been one of the standouts, and now he's out, throat injury. Taulagi coming back as well, huge in. He's a State of Origin winger, of course, so that's a big inclusion. But, for mine, Tohu Harris, hopefully he does get on the field. He's been named the last couple of weeks, but I think last minute ruled out. I'm talking day of the game, day before the game. Dylan Walker and Lussick back in the side as well. I just like their form. I like their form. I know they didn't get a win on the weekend, but I like some of the things they're doing. And the team that are out of form at the moment are the Cowboys. Not on their own in the competition. I'm just saying in this matchup, the team out of form is the Cowboys. And it's going to take a huge effort for them to go over to New Zealand and come up against the Warriors team that are going to be well-backed. Saturday, 3 o'clock in the Arvo. They're going to have a big crowd. As you know, mate, you played there. It's always a tough road trip.
Yeah, with the Cowboys, the first couple of games, people saying, they've had a lackluster start. And I was like, I disagree. I think they've actually been okay, rah-rah. But I've gone from, I think they're going okay to, they're not going great to, I'm starting to get worried because they don't look like the same team as last year in regards to the way they're playing. They had such a gritty edge to them last year and just a never say die kind of attitude. Very Townsville Cowboys kind of team. And so the only reason I'm going to go Cowboys is because even though the Warriors they're in form, they've shown a lot of fight.
Yep.
They've leaked over 30 points two weeks in a row.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm sure the Cowboys have probably leaked the same amount of points as well. But I just think it's going to get to the point where the Cowboys just say enough is enough. And look, maybe it's one game where they just turn up and blow a team off the park.
Yep.
I just think they're going to be stinging too much from last week, and they'll get the win.
Well, mate, you got to remember it was only 1 month ago these two teams met. It's crazy to think that.
I know.
And they actually beat the Cowboys at home.
I know, Smithy. I know. Maybe it's a Queenslander in me. I don't know.
Mate, I'd love to see the Cowboys win too because I tipped them to bloody win the Premiership, but I don't know. I don't know. I just think the Warriors might get this one playing on their home turf.
Okay, we'll head to a break. After the break, we'll continue previewing the round. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Let's get on to it. Knights versus the Panthers, Saturday, 5:30 at McDonald Jones Stadium. Knights team, Phoenix Crossland moves to hooker. Jaden Brayley and Tyson Gamble. For Jaden Brayley, Tyson Gamble returns in the halves. I thought they said Jaden Brayley returns in the halves. I was like, damn, that's a quick recovery, the poor fella. How devastating for so he did his ACL 2 years ago, did his Achilles, and he's done his ACL again. And it's to a bloke that he's not cutting corners. He's the toughest of the toughest. Now, on to Panthers team, no changes. No changes to the 17 that beat Manly. I want to know what their program is because it's the best program in the comp. It's incredible.
That is
it's
fit.
Incredible. Yeah.
They're fit, well prepared. Have been for a long time now. They've just been so dominant. This is Newcastle's fourth game at home in the last 5 weeks. Why are they not using? Why have they got so many home games? Is it maybe
as a Broncos fan, I can't really talk.
Well, maybe they're in the same. Are they in the same situation with the Women's World Cup coming up? Are they using McDonald Jones Stadium for a couple of World Cup games, maybe? And they lose some home games at the end. Maybe that's what's happening in the NRL. Although Brizzy, no, they're not leaving Queensland for a long time. Look, I think been happy with the way the Knights have fought. That's as good as they played in a long time on the weekend. Like they dug in, they fought. Some great footy being played. Dom Young, how good's Dom Young? Such a big loss for Newcastle, but he was their best player last year. He for whatever reason, he was in reserve grade only a few weeks ago. Then come back and he scored 1,000 tries in a couple of games, and he's just leading them around the park beautifully. Plays with so much energy every game. I just think the Penrith Panthers will be too strong for Newcastle. Simple as that. It's a pretty straightforward. With all due respect to Newcastle, with no changes to the 17, I think they've sort of found their little mojo. They found their groove again, Penrith. And if they turn up and play this in a similar style to what they played last week, this could be a big win for them.
Yeah, the Penny Panthers, unfortunately, fight only gets you so far for the Knights. And when you get up a team against Penny Panthers, you need more than fight because they're just so clinical. I agree with you, mate. I have absolutely loved the fight the Newey Knights have shown over the last couple of weeks. Shown some real grit, some real character. Been through so many injuries to key players, and they just keep, especially the last 2 weeks, they've just turned up and kept having a go. So I love that. But when I look at this Penny Panthers side, they're like, when you look at across the board, there's an argument to be made that each player in each position, outside of maybe one or two, is the best in the comp.
Yeah.
Like
in their particular position, yeah.
Yeah. Like on 1 week, Taruva, form-wise, he'll get picked as winger of the comp, like as in that week. So winger of round 5.
Yep.
To'o, best winger in the comp. Crichton, Tungor. Then you go into the Hoskins is breakout season. Liam Martin, Australian player.
Yep.
Cleary. It just doesn't stop. Fisher Harris, Leota. These guys are all arguably at times best in position. And so when it clicks, it is just unstoppable. I think it's I know I say it quite regularly, but when I look at situations like that, and let's say I'm at the Knights and I'm one of the boys or the coaching staff, I would look at it as a real opportunity. Like, this is a chance to just, let's do something here, boys. Yeah. Let's not be overawed by anything. Let's have the chip on our shoulder like the Raiders did to the Broncos last week. Yeah.
Mate, I'm with you. There's nothing better than, being that team that really no one gives a lot of hope to. So, what have you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose because there's no expectation on you to go out and win that game of football. So just get out there and give it your best shot. Wouldn't it be such a fantastic feeling? And I experienced it on the other side. So when I was playing for a Melbourne Storm side that was, similarly dominant to the Penrith team that they were watching now, if you got beaten by any other team in the competition, they would celebrate it like they'd won the Premiership. And we're only in, like we are now, like a round 7, round 10, round 15, whatever it was. So, enjoy the challenge. That's what our game's about. That's what sport's about. It's about challenges. It's about, matching yourself up against the best and really seeing how far you can take them.
Mate, and I think with the Newey Knights forward pack, get a bit of chip on your shoulder. Say, you know what I mean? Almost say, who do these guys think they are? They're the big dogs. Everyone thinks they're you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need that to motivate yourself. Get you a bit of kind of, I guess, not hatred. Hatred's a strong word, but almost just an anger towards the opposition.
Yeah.
For example, are you telling me that Raiders forward pack didn't go up to Brisbane going, who do these boys think they are?
Absolutely.
That's exactly what they did.
Stood up to them, absolutely.
And so I think the Knights, although I have the Panthers winning, I think it's an opportunity for the Knights. Panthers, what more is there to say? Seriously, what more is there to say? They are absolutely incredible. But let's get to our next game. Preview of the round, thanks to Suncorp, building a more resilient Queensland. That's thanks to the Suncorp spirit. It's the Titans v the Broncos, Saturday, 7:30 p.m. at the Seabus Stadium, Super Stadium. It's called the Almost Cam Smith Cup. The Almost Cam Smith Cup.
What does that mean? Almost.
We almost signed you. Both of us.
Oh, mate, I didn't know where you were going with that one. No, I like it, though.
Okay.
I like it. Almost Cam Smith Cup. Righto, gotcha.
Titans team news. Foz is out. Foz returns to Sexton. Mid-season signing, Super League former Tigers prop. Thomas Mekele has been named on the bench. Flegler is out with concussion. Jensen starts at prop. Kobe Hetherington joins the bench for the first time this year.
Big out. Tommy Flegler, like he's been one of the best props in the competition. Big out for the Bronx. Although Corey Jensen starts at prop, so he's been a regular in their team over the last couple of seasons. Great to see Kobe Hetherington getting another crack in first grade, first game of the year, of course. I can't believe the luck for Toby Sexton. I just cannot get over that. Like fractured wrist. When did that news break? Because he played that entire game.
Yeah, 100%. Like, did he do it at the end? Did he do it in the middle?
Did he go home and jump on his skateboard or something and he was going down the street like Joey did after he won the premiership and he'd come off the skateboard? What was happening?
He was knocking back too many bloke beers, mate. Fractured his wrist. There you go. Buy it at all bottle shops. Go to a store located on Black.shop.
Was it? Did he fracture it by lifting too many? Or did he
too many.
Or he fell over afterwards from drinking too many?
Mate, of course he drank responsibly.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
all.
You always have to.
Of course he did.
Yes. Righto, let's get to this game. I think that the Titans take a lot of confidence, I think, into this one. And again, it's big brother, little brother, Kempy, of course. So, talking about, standing up to the opposition team and particularly the forward pack, we spoke with Dave Fifita at the top of the show, and he spoke about the challenge of coming up against the Broncos, particularly guys like Payne Haas and Patrick Carrigan and these guys that are high profile representative players. It's a big test. It's a big test for the Titans forward pack in particular to get out there and match it. But I've really liked the way that particularly Tino Fa'asua Malawi, Mo Fodawaker have really taken themselves to games and really enforced themselves physically on the opposition. What's stopping them from doing against possibly one of the strongest forward packs in the competition in the Broncos? If they can do that, particularly with Kieran Foran back, I think they're every chance of knocking the Broncos off. And still, as you said, Kempy, like this is your team, so you could analyse this a bit better for us. Still yet to see the Broncos come up against a team and get out there and actually do a job on them, properly. Like, I know they've had a couple of big score lines, but it hasn't been an 80. I don't know if we've seen an 80-minute performance. Maybe round one. Sorry, I apologise. Maybe round one.
Even round one, last 20 minutes, we dropped about 3 balls. Selwyn Cobbo nearly dropped the ball.
Oh, that's
Corey
right.
Oates dropped the ball coming out of it.
That's right. So, that's I think that's what we're all waiting for, aren't we? Is to see that complete 80-minute performance from a Broncos side.
Yeah, just quickly with the Titans, what I'm doing is I'm sitting down with the Titans and I'm going, all right, Fodawaker, who's your opposition? Jensen. Are you a better player than him?
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it's not out of the word. Like, you're an Origin player.
Yeah.
Then I'd sit down, I go, Tino, you and Payne Haas nearly punched on an Origin. Like, let's do that, but without obviously the punching.
Make it personal.
You know what I'm saying?
Make it personal.
Tino, every time he gets the ball, if I don't see you shooting up to smash, like to have a go, I'll be filthy. David Fifita against Kurt Catewell. Can you do a job on Catewell? You've got the potential. Joe Simpson versus Ricky, even match. Isaac Liu versus Carrigan. I'd say, Isaac, this is a huge opportunity for you to go at the Premier, 13/forward.
Yep.
And so, and then you got Randall versus Walters. I would look at them and go, boys, everyone's talking about this Brisbane forward pack. Are they that much stronger on paper than us? Honestly.
Yeah.
And challenge them and say, let's dominate the Broncos forwards, because without them, the Broncos, it's all around the forward pack for the Broncos. It really is.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd be saying. Look, I'm backing the Broncos. I don't care if we win by 1 or by 2. I just want to see 80% completion rate.
Yep.
And I'm happy. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. No, mate, that's a fair point. Yep.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Time now for Raiders v Dragons, Sunday, 2 p.m, GIO Stadium.
Look, I think the Raiders will be full of confidence coming off that win against the Broncos. Plus, they get Jackie Whiten back, Joseph Taupau, of course, and Nick Kotrick. Playing at home, you know, there's a lot of pressure on the Dragons at the moment, isn't there? Really. Like, with every loss, I think the pressure builds. Although they were a bees away from winning that game against the Titans. Like, if they make one more tackle, two more tackles possibly, they win the game. And they're not feeling the heat like they are this week. Like, as soon as they lose that game, the questions start again. How many games does Anthony Griffin have left? You know, like, is he under pressure? Will he retain his job after this year? Will he have a job by the end of this year? Yeah, it's just funny how, you know, those small moments add up and they build pressure. So really, I think depending on how they handle this week and the sort of the noise, and if they can put aside the noise that's happening outside of their footy club, will determine how they turn up and play this week. Because there was a lot to like about their game against the Titans. A lot to like about it. I thought their defence, they showed a fair bit of resilience in defence. You know, they fought hard. They actually used the football. They promoted the football a fair bit. But Ben Hunt, I'm telling you, like, his game on the weekend was unbelievable, really. Like, I know he was involved in that last play where Toby Sexton went through, but goodness me, like, up until that point, he was everywhere for the Dragons. If he doesn't play, they get beat by 40.
Yeah.
But I think with the Raiders travelling to Brisbane, beating the Broncos without a couple of their stars, in Tarpany and Whiten, I think they return home and I think they make that count, the return of those boys, and they win it.
Yeah, I think the Raiders get the job done because you almost, if you're Ricky, obviously you've got those massive ins and that helps a lot. But Ricky can say to the boys, this is what we do.
Yeah.
This is how we play. They've got the game plan now. They've got the points of where they need to be in matches in regards to the defence, the intensity. And so they can build off last week's win. I think what's also really impressive about last week's win for Raiders, if you go and look at the stats, their completion rate was still only about 72%.
Yeah.
So they didn't even play the best they could play.
Yeah.
They just ripped in.
Yeah. And like you said, mate, like that's the team that we all know. And it's actually when they're playing their best footy is when they play that style of footy. So if they have that same attitude and they actually complete high, they'll be very hard to beat.
Now on to the Eels versus Bulldogs, Sunday, 4 p.m, Combank Stadium. Junior Paulo returns at prop. Widamu Greg moves to the bench. Jack Murchie drops out. Doggies, Kikau, Raymond, Fatala, Mariner, Tavita Pungo Jr. all return. Well, not Kikau. Kikau doesn't return, but the rest of them return to the starting side. Braden Burns replaces Josh Adokar on the wing. How do you see this playing out, Smithy?
Yeah, well, I think now with the news that we learned during the show that Kikau has got picked up a long-term injury. Although Pangai Jr. and Fatala Mariner are big ins for them, I think Josh Adokar not being there will hurt a bit. Just his speed and his ability to that X factor out on the wing is going to play a part particularly over the next couple of months. He's going to be out for at least 8. So Eels, they did what they had to do last week. Just snuck past the West Tigers. Could have gone either way that game. I couldn't believe the ending, but great to see some exciting footy over the opening month and a half. But I think the Eels will be too good in this one. Junior Paulo, like, what he does for this footy side is unbelievable for his position that he plays, like the confidence that he brings. So I think the Eels will be too strong here, mate.
Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Let's now share our sure things for Sure Hire, the temporary work experts, surehire.com.au. Smithy, what's your sure thing, mate?
Oh, so I lost my first sure thing last week. Went the Cowboys. They let me down, the Cows. I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm back on. I'm going to go again this week, and I'm going to go the Roosters.
Okay. Look, I was going to go the easy one, but I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to put myself out there.
Different to last week. You went the Rabbits.
Oh, come on, mate. That was a tough game.
All right.
Tough game.
Who is it this week?
I'm going to go Eels.
Okay.
Sure thing. Eels to get the job done. They're going to bounce back, even though they still won last week. Junior Bolo back.
Yep.
Big game, big things. Shore Hire, Australia's most complete shoring, propping, and traffic product. Call 1300 Shore Hire, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Next week.